Hey guys, Carter here with Patriot Training Center. Today I'm going to talk to you about the top 7 mistakes we see shooters make when they come take their first class. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Starting off at number 1, one of the big mistakes I see is people not having the right gear. So this includes holster, ear pro. We like to have electronic ear pro, a good holster that fits the gun properly, that is made for that gun. Another one we see sometimes is not having belt loops. So make sure you're wearing pants that you can clip a belt to that holds your holster up properly. It'll make your life a lot easier when we're out here on the range, and it'll be way more comfortable if you have a good holster and a good belt to work off of. Number 2 is something that we see a lot that we have to really work on and make sure people are staying on top of, and that is keeping your finger off the trigger when you're not firing. So this is what we see a lot. As you can see here, this gun is unloaded and I put a barrel block in there to render it useless. There's nothing that can chamber. So we're safe to do this because I'm going to demonstrate something that would be unsafe with a gun. We see a lot of this where you're down at the ready and your finger wants to stay on that trigger. The problem with that is you're not on target and you haven't made the decision to shoot, so your finger shouldn't be on the trigger. So make sure that when you're down at the ready, your finger is off the trigger. So when you come out of the holster, finger is off the trigger. Now you can go on the trigger now that you're on target, but as soon as you come off, you come off. So that is a really big one. That keeps us all safe. If you follow that one, you can probably not have an ND out here because you're not making your gun go off unless you put your finger on the trigger or something gets in there. But keep your finger off the trigger and stay safe on that one. The third thing I see is muzzle discipline. So we have a lot of people, when they'll come back to the ready, you want to come back like this. The problem with that is we have a berm right here that catches all the bullets, and if you're holding your gun like this and you have an ND, you're going to launch it straight over the berm. So we want to keep it pointed in a safe direction at all times, and this is not a safe direction. Especially if you get this close to your face, you can accidentally shoot your face off, and that would really suck. So the way you correct that is go down at the ready, have it pointed in a safe direction downrange at the berm, and keep that thing pointed out past the target into the berm. And then when you're ready to shoot, you can go on target, come back down to the ready, then you can holster it up. Okay. The fourth mistake I see is people bending over when they have a gun in their hands to pick stuff up. So this would look something like this. You're out on target, we're done with the drill. Jeff, our head instructor, will give the range command of reload, or make your guns happy, as we like to say. Keep those things full of ammo. And you'll see people drop a magazine and put a new one in and then try and pick up the magazine off the ground. So you'll see I can do this, but my gun is now not pointed in a safe direction. It's pointed down at the ground, and it's really easy for it to creep around, and you're just not being very safe with it. So what we would like to see is holster. Everyone's going to get a holster command. All guns are going to go back into the holsters. We'll deem that the line's safe. Then you can pick up your gear off the ground. We're not going to let it float away into the abyss. It'll be okay there on the ground for a second. They don't have legs. They won't walk away. Put the gun in the holster. Make sure that everything's safe. Jeff will give the command, or I will give the command. Make sure it's okay, and then you can bend over to pick up your gear. Number 5 is people pulling guns out of holsters when they're not supposed to be out of holsters. So we conduct a hot range here at Patriot Training Center, which means that your gun's probably going to be loaded in the holster. That's how you're going to carry it out in the world. That's how we're going to train with it. That's just the way we do things here. The problem with that is you cannot take the gun out of the holster unless you're on the firing line and you've been given the command to do so. We see a lot of times people are like, well, I'm not loaded, I'm not chambered up. We know that. We'll call it and make sure that you're loaded up before the next drill. But what we can't have is people behind the firing lines fooling with guns, especially because we are working with loaded guns. So if you need to change a mag out or something like that, make sure that you have a holster that you can access the magazine button and press it while it's still holstered. We're okay if you do an administrative reload, if you need to push mags. Just don't let that gun come out of the holster unless we're out on the line and you've been given a command to do so. So I can take out the magazine, put it in, I'll put it in, pop it, give it a nice tug, it's in, ready for the next drill. If you don't have one chambered, that's okay. We probably know that, but if we forget, then you can raise your hand and say, hey, I don't have one chambered. And what will happen is we'll say, okay, draw to the ready. I'm gonna give you a command, load and make ready. Now you're ready to go to do the drill. So that's the way we do that. We do not want guns coming out of holsters like this and pointed in unsafe directions behind the firing line. The only guns that come out of holsters are the ones on the firing line when you've been given a command to do so. The sixth mistake that I see is people not watching their muzzle direction when they're getting instructions. So if you're out on the ready, I might come over and tell you things. If you need to look at me, you can turn your head. Preferably you just nod your head, okay, staying downrange. But if you need to, you can kind of look over. But make sure that you're separating where your eyes go versus where your muzzle goes. Because it's really dangerous if we have this right here. This is really dangerous. You're pointing it at all the line, and it can really get someone hurt. So make sure that you're out pointed in a safe direction, and you can turn your head and listen, but make sure that you're not turning your gun too, because that can be very unsafe. Mistake number 7 is a big one, and that is dropping the gun to your side after a drill. So this looks something like this. You're out at the drill, you just did really awesome on your awesome shots, and you're tearing the center out of the target, and then you're excited and you drop the gun like this, or you're tired and you drop the gun like this on the firing line. So now you have a loaded gun pointed at your feet or your buddy over here, and you're just nonchalant with it holding a loaded gun. This is not the way we want to do it. There should be 3 places that your gun is when you're on the firing line. It should either be out at the target, at the ready, or in the holster. Don't wave guns around. They're loaded. We're very careful. Make sure they're in the holster, at the ready, or on target. We're not putting guns down by our sides and pointing them in unsafe directions. Okay, I have a bonus mistake for you as well. So the last one that I have for you is reholstering. This one is super, super important. Reholstering is the most dangerous thing that we can do with a gun when we're out there. No one's ever won a gunfight reholstering the fastest. So we need to be slow and reluctant. We see a lot of times newer shooters, when they're just getting used to it, they'll just kind of slam their gun back in the holster like that, or, you know, just kind of palm it in. The problem with that is going down, if you have a piece of clothing, then it can get in the trigger guard, and when you slam it down like that, you can press the trigger, and that can shoot your stuff off. I know that me carrying appendix, I definitely don't want my gun going off, even though it's a small target. So make sure that you're really careful about reholstering. Clear a path, poke your hips out, and reholster. In the 3 o'clock position, it would still look like this. You would clear a path, look it into the holster. I poke my hips out a little bit, watch it back into the holster. And as you notice, I'm keeping my firing grip on the gun. I'm not letting go like this. I'm keeping the gun in my firing grip, clearing a path, clearing my gut, watch it back into the holster. We're good to go. We're not going to get mad at you for going slow back into the holster. There's no tactical reason to go fast back into the holster. It can cause accidents. You don't want to shoot yourself. That's a big one. So really work on that. Be sure that you're being careful back into the holster. I can't wait to train with you guys here at Patriot Training Center. I'll catch you guys in the next one.